level.
Hi there, greetings, salutations, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever it might be, good morning, wherever you're watching. That's an old Sid Collins line from the Indy 500. But my name is Jake Query. That is not Derek Schultz.
No.
That is, of course, he needs no introduction, Greg Rakestraw. And this is Query and Schultz with Schultz vacationing and Greg filling in very capably here on the ISC Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, Greg, this is cool, man. It's fun to have you. You and I have done, I don't know, probably 50 different shows over the course of the years, right?
I was thinking about this because, Schultz, is nothing if not a planner. So I've known about this for a couple of weeks. Today is his son's birthday. So happy 7th birthday, James. Right. And so the family's taking a little vacation, pull him out of school, but that's their decision, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to parent his
Parent
kid.
of the year.
Actually probably is for doing that. So I know about this for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to age both of us. You and I have been doing a version of this, not on a regular basis, but occasionally for over 20 years at this point.
Man.
Yeah.
No, you're probably right?
No, seriously, no.
Going back to, different ways. And it's always funny because I don't know that we've ever done it where both of us consistently had a job together. Right?
No.
That's the way it works, right?
We've had multiple tries at this, and nobody's thought, you know what? Those guys need to be on a show on a regular basis together. Yet we keep doing it over the course of 20
wait a minute.
years.
Now, I want people to know, just so you know, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but on ISC Sports Network, on what we call the Chiron, the lower third, it says, Jake and the Fat Man returns to I had nothing to do with typing that in.
I wrote that.
You are
if you
are
are
the graphic extraordinaire guy.
I am not doing the graphics today. This laptop is not connected to the graphics. So if you like the graphics, J.D. Arlen is on graphics. And if you don't like the graphics, seriously, J.D. Arlen is on graphics. So it's all on J.D. and his crazy smiling dogs that are doing the graphics today.
There we go. All right, by the way, J.D. and his crazy smiling dogs, of course, he is making sure that they always have a great home. And when it comes to a great home, Bailey & Wood is the place for you. Bailey & Wood, the proud, at least I'm hoping they are, presenting sponsor. We are certainly proud to be able to say that they are. Presenting sponsor of this program. Bailey & Wood, of course, getting you the best mortgage rates when it comes to getting into your new home and keeping the money right here in Central Indiana because they do great philanthropic work. Derek and I and Greg have been able to go out to their fabulous golf outing each year where they give so much money back to different areas of the schools on the south side and throughout Central Indiana. BAWFG.com is the website for Bailey & Wood.
Are you going to quiz me like you do the guy that normally sits here in terms of knowing the advertiser information? I think I've got most of them. Okay. I had the website. I would not have gotten 350-HOME. Is that
855-350-HOME.
Okay, got it.
Right.
BAWFG.com.
Correct.
And I know to enunciate and say it slowly.
Yes, thank you.
I do watch the show each week.
He does. By the way, we're going to talk plenty of college basketball, and I know that it's Super Bowl week, and you got the Chiefs and the 49ers lined up. We'll get to that in a little bit, and the Colts, how far or how close they may be to that promised land. Plenty of NBA talk as well. But let's begin with college basketball, Greg, and I don't just mean in talking about what I witnessed something on Sunday. Actually, I guess it would have been on Saturday, but I am super excited about this.
Okay.
Really excited about this. And I hate to bring up a negative sports memory, but the last sporting event I attended before the sports world shut down due to COVID, the last event I attended, I actually coached a YMCA basketball team years ago.
Yeah.
And Sam Hooper was one of my favorite players. We were the Hornets, by the way, in Pike YMCA. Sam was one of my all-time favorite kids, and he's now a young man. And we got tickets, Derek and I, and you were helpful in that as well, to the Horizon League tournament in 2020, in March of 2020. Yeah. And I called up Sam and said, hey, you got a buddy that wants to go to the game with me? So the three of us went to the game, had a wonderful time. They were, I could tell, Sam was a young man now, so he was asking me all about the history of the Coliseum and everything that goes on, and we were able to watch Horizon League basketball, the tournament. Here you are watching basically, you're watching a conference tournament, right, knowing that the winner is going to go on to March Madness. The stakes are high. The schools were super into it. I saw Detroit, and they were playing, I believe, Valparaiso is the game that I went to. No, Detroit and Wright State maybe. Yep. But nonetheless, it was fabulous. I loved everything about it. And then that tournament, that was the last tournament to run to completion, I believe, right?
Correct. And so basically, because that was my last sporting event as well, but I wasn't there, I think, for the evening session. I was there for the afternoon session that day. because that was Austin Parkinson, the IUPUI women, winning the tournament.
That's right.
And we're about to play in the NCAA tournament for the first time. We're all on the floor celebrating, and I say we because of my relationship there. If I've been to Fairbanks, Alaska, Honolulu, Hawaii, Cedar City, Utah, Macomb, Illinois with IUPUI basketball, I can drop the royal we when it comes to the Jaguars. So even though I've never was the women's voice, I've done enough games and know the program well enough where I was on the floor and kind of taking pictures and celebrating. And less than 48 hours later, sports were shut. So the first Horizon League tournament in Indianapolis was 2020. And again, the tournament starts on campus sites for opening round and quarterfinals. They bring the semifinalist teams for the women and men, 6 games, 2 days at the Horizon League. And as the sign says in front of us, I'm not sure if I got it angled properly or you can see it, March starts here. We bring this up not only for a great memory, but to welcome a new sponsor. So hello to the Horizon League.
I love it.
That is joining us for the next 6 weeks. You'll hear about March starting here in hashtag Midtown. Many things Jake and I agree on. Hashtag Midtown is probably not one of those.
Thank you, Greg.
But again,
Can you do this each week?
I disagree with you. We'll just agree to disagree on that. I celebrate hashtag Midtown, and so does Sean Sullivan from the Horizon League because, not Jake and the Fat Man, but Query and Schultz will be doing a live show at a location to be determined.
Let's go.
On Monday, March the 11th, kind of in between the women's sessions, which starts at noon, and the men's semifinal, which starts at 7. So we could be at the Coliseum.
Let's go, man.
We could be at a fantastic watering hole somewhere, again, in hashtag Midtown. But for the next 6 weeks, you will see all things Horizon League on this program. And as always, thank you, Sean Sullivan, for your support of what we do.
Greg, here's what's great about this.
Yeah.
And I want to make this very clear to people. I've said this many, many times. But in terms of the Horizon League, I mean, sure, you have local flavor with it, right?
Right.
Obviously. And the fact that, IUPUI is going to be there. Look, if you are looking, first off, the stakes of it, right? It's the start of, there's nothing better than when the weather breaks, you feel spring in the air, and you know that March Madness is upon us, right? And Selection Sunday's right around the corner and everything else. And these schools, many of which this is their ticket into the tournament.
Only one.
And their chance to get in and hear their name called on Selection Sunday. So the stakes are high in the games alone. You have, for the most part, regionally, fans that have come in that are enjoying Indianapolis. But I'm telling you, the history of the Coliseum, the accessibility of seats at the Coliseum, there's not a bad seat in the house.
No.
And you're there, you're watching college basketball. It is the perfect opportunity, especially to take young people that have never experienced Division I college athletics, take them down to a game and soak it all in.
I really didn't think I would be the first one today to plug a radio show on the Fan, since Jake has one 3 hours a day. I do have two that are each an hour apiece this time of year. So the folks at the Horizon League have asked me to do this program called On the Horizon Radio. It airs Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock on the Fan. And so I am chock full of Horizon League goodness in terms of facts and figures.
I heard you talking to a young lady who was a Horizon League athlete last week.
Yeah.
And it's cool to hear the stories of athletes away from the field, right?
Correct.
What their major is, how they're getting facilitated through their education, through the league, et cetera, et cetera.
Jasmine Kondrakevich, and trust me, I practiced that name a lot before I said it, was the person you heard me talking to a week ago. So anyway, to your point, the Horizon League typically is a one-bid league. There was a thought that maybe they could sneak in two from a women's standpoint because Green Bay is a historically great program. They actually have 2 wins over top 25 teams this year. They lost at Cleveland State on Saturday, who's the second-best team, the defending and reigning champs. They got 30 wins last year. So maybe there's still a possibility that 2 teams go on the women's side, but probably more likely one. On the men's side, again, it is absolutely a one-bid league. And while that's not exactly a badge you want to wear as a college basketball league, as it relates to this discussion, what it really means is that the drama is there. You can have a great season, and if it does not go well for you on one night, and let's face it, the NIT has been a consolation prize for these mid and low majors for a long time. For about the last 20 years, if you won your regular season league, but you did not win the tournament, you were guaranteed a bid in the NIT. For example, Youngstown State made the NIT and hosted Oklahoma State last year. That's a big deal on campus. Well, that safety net has now been taken away. There is no longer a guaranteed NIT bid. So it is an all-or-nothing proposition. Maybe you play in a secondary tournament, but you want that shot at glory. You want literally your one shining moment. It happens here in Indianapolis on March 11th and March 12th.
Okay, so let's talk about, by the way, when you talk about one-bid leagues, one of the one-bid leagues in the area that right now a team making a high claim to make that a two-bid league if they don't win their conference tournament. And I'm going to begin when we talk college basketball with Indiana State.
How about that?
And what the Trees are doing right now. They have 3 losses on the season, Greg. They have beaten 2 of – so they've only lost – they've lost 2 games on their schedule against teams that they did not beat because obviously they lost to Drake, but then they got revenge for that in winning the second go-round with Drake. But Indiana State is in prime position right now. They are 3rd in terms of the top 25 of others receiving votes, so they're ranked 28th, for lack of a better phrase. They are really good, Greg, and they are good to the point where what I love about them is the spacing that they use, the way that they can shoot the ball, the percentage that they are getting in terms of getting themselves good looks and good shots. I just think they're tremendous, and I hope they win their league so there's no argument about it. But if they don't, I really think Indiana State should get in.
All right, so let's give you some of the IDs. You saw some pictures fly by. First one is Josh Schultz, and what a job he has done. And Sherrard Clinkscales is now no longer the AD at Indiana State.
I mean, that's the hire of the century.
But what a job he did. And for so many years, and again, you know my background, that I've spent a lot of time at Division II, went to a D2 school in UIndy, spent a lot of time around NAI, like we have Marion here on ISC. It has been next to impossible for small college coaches to get a crack at the Division I level. And seemingly that has changed in the last 5 or 6 years because there's been a lot of really good coaches at that level for a long time. Josh was at Lincoln Memorial in Tennessee, and you would have other coaches contacting him to kind of almost get like a tutorial. Hey, show me the stuff that you're doing. And modern basketball at the NBA level, and it trickles down from there, is almost a math experiment at this point, as in space the floor. You don't have to run high-level sets, especially in a 30-second shot clock era. You don't run on these high-level sets. It's space the floor, find open shooters.
Right.
Have guys that can create off the dribble. Indiana State, I'm not sure if this is the case now, but for a while, they were the number 1 3-point percentage team in the nation at just under 42%.
And they can do it in bunches, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you look at what they did in East Lansing. They're down, and then all of a sudden, they didn't win that game, but the threes start coming and they roar right back into it. I mean, you can never count them out.
And we showed you 2 players on there as well. The first one is Ryan Conwell, Pike High School. And Ryan was an Indiana All-Star 2 years ago. We had him a lot on the ISC Sports Network because of doing Mick games, Indiana All-Stars, etc. The next guy has become a star, and that is Robbie Avila. And again, he's the Missouri Valley Nikola Jokic at this point.
Yeah.
Doesn't look the part. Kids are wearing goggles to school now in Terre Haute because they want to be like this kid. And that's the other part of the story, is not Robbie, but look behind him. There's not an empty seat in the building.
Yeah, it's
They've had back-to-back sellouts, and we'll let you behind the curtain here. We're talking about the live show we're going to do with the Horizon League tournament. I frankly asked my friends in Terre Haute, would you like to have us? And there's frankly a little money that is involved in something like that. And they said, actually, we're doing well on ticket sales. And I responded, I said, I'm happy for you guys.
Totally.
Because even when they've had good teams in the past, like they've drawn maybe 6,000 or 7,000 at the Holman Center.
And that's a great arena.
Right,
Greg.
and they just redid it.
My buddy and I went over for Indiana State Evansville.
Yeah.
I got to think it was maybe like early or mid-January.
Yeah.
Just drove over there, and that arena, they've renovated the arena. I mean, the arena's been there 50 years, right?
Yep.
But they've renovated the arena, and not a bad seat in the house. You walk in, easily accessible, parking garage right there. It's great.
And I did not go to school at Indiana State, but ironically enough, like all 3 summers I was in high school, I did different camps in Terre Haute. So I have an affinity for Terre. Actually, there's a group of my friends that from one of those camps we get together now every summer. And so 2 years ago, we spent a weekend in downtown Terre Haute. Your first thought might be to laugh at that. There's a lot of cool things in downtown Terre Haute. The bar and restaurant scene in Terre Haute's not huge, but it's not too bad.
Did you get a champagne velvet?
Of course I did. You're in Terre Haute. What else are you going to do?
That's right.
So now we'll drink other different great beer.
That's right.
Later in the show.
And this is a celebratory beer that we're going to have coming up in just a little bit.
Absolutely. But anyway, long story short, Indiana State is rolling right now, and I got zero problem if we're going to, even with as good as Purdue is and as big as their win at Wisconsin was on Sunday, I love giving the Trees a little attention off the top of the show.
Of course, you just mentioned it there with Purdue, and let's go there because something happened over the weekend with Purdue and Wisconsin, Greg, that to me was an epiphany.
Yeah.
And it involves, by the way, my nominee for Love That Play, our favorite play of the weekend, which we'll get to. But you watch Purdue at Wisconsin. Here's Purdue that is trying to get a stranglehold in the Big Ten Conference. They're going on the road against a top 10 team. Think about that. On the road against the 6th-ranked team in the country, right? You know you're really good when you're playing a team and you feel in control for the majority of the game, and then you look up and you're like, wait a minute, this is a team that's also in the top 10, and it's at home in front of a typically fairly hostile crowd in Wisconsin.
Yep.
But I thought in that game, from the very get-go, Zach Edey does the opening tip, his arms being pulled down.
Right.
That picture kind of goes viral.
Very Wisconsin, by
Correct.
the way. Yep.
But Wisconsin gave him fits all night. I'll give Wisconsin credit, the way that they fronted him and doubled him, and they just – Zach Edey was never able to fully get in rhythm.
How crazy is this? Zach was 7 of 13 from the field on Sunday. And we're like, we had an off game.
I know.
That's how remarkable he has been at Purdue.
He had 18 points and 13 rebounds,
Right.
and you're like,
He
boy,
had
he
an
was
off night,
negated.
yeah.
But he was, though. I mean,
he was. You're
what
right.
I'm saying is their offense didn't flow through him, per se. Mm-hmm. Greg, that is a game, and this is what I said on the radio yesterday. That is a game that Purdue does not win a year ago.
Yeah.
But now Purdue has a combination of two things. Number one, they have the maturity and the poise in their backcourt. Braden Smith is really, really good. He's a very smart player. He hits open shots. He's got a mid-range game. He's like the collegiate Andrew Nembhard, right? Like there's nothing that jumps out at you, but he's very effective.
It's funny you mentioned that because the recruiting wick really turned up on Braden Smith either going into his junior year, at the end of his junior year, because Mark Few and Gonzaga started poking around. And so it's very interesting that you make the Nembhard reference, because that's when he got on a lot of people's radar. When Gonzaga showed an interest in Braden Smith, all of a sudden business picked up for him.
And listen, he's obviously, this is a guy that's going to be there 4 years and is a really, really good player.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, what Purdue now has that is remarkable, Greg, is they have two things. They have balance in number of ways that they can beat you. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, you take Edey out, okay, fine, we'll go with the exterior game, or even with Braden Smith, the mid-range game. They also have flexibility of bigs between Trey Kaufman-Renn and then obviously Caleb Furst, who was at one time a starter and is now the unselfishness of that roster is amazing.
So you go with unselfishness, and it's 1,000% accurate. But the phrase that we will hear from coaches, we hear in press conferences that resonates in my mind is buy-in. And maybe the guy that was an example, even though he elected to leave at the end of last year, think about Brandon Newman, the kid from Valparaiso, that was going to be a star at Purdue and just never seemingly could find that regular playing time. Yet what happened when his number was called, he was ready.
Right.
So that hit me in watching that game on Sunday afternoon as well. Caleb Furst, his minutes have really been reduced, but you're not hearing any chirping out of him.
Right.
And everybody realizes they are playing for a greater good. I mean, let's face it, kids redshirt at Purdue. Who redshirts anymore?
No doubt.
It does not happen.
It's about what you go. And here's the thing: in the NIL transfer portal era and all that, people have asked me, how long can Purdue sustain this? Listen, Purdue was. You could say that Purdue was behind the 8 ball on the NIL stuff, or you could say they were actually ahead of the curve and they knew what was there and intentionally brought in players that weren't going to be sucked into that and buy into it.
And guys are making these guys are making money that are playing at Purdue. We can rack up a Mason Gillis 9-star commercial. We've got it on file for you right now. If you want to see it. So NIL is at Purdue, but it's really about the caliber of person they have playing for them. And obviously the caliber of person they have as the head coach. So the question is, can Purdue sustain this? Can they sustain being the number 2 team in the country or number 1 every year? I don't know about that. But as long as Matt Painter is going to be the head coach, believe me, they're going to be just fine in West Lafayette.
Right there, Matt Painter is saying to Mark Few, we ended up getting him, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When it comes to Purdue late in that game against Wisconsin, my nominee for our Love That Play. Love That Play is brought to you each and every week, by the way, from the good folks at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love-HVAC.com is their website. 317-353-2141. Talking about a 4-generation deep, over 100 years business in Indianapolis, serving Marion and all the donut counties, and doing so with the best product to keep your house comfortable and all year round. That'd be cool in the summertime. That would be warm in the wintertime, and 24-hour on-call maintenance.
Jake, I am such a fan of Love Heating and Cooling. I actually have 2 different HVAC units in my house.
Really?
One for John, one for Chris. Absolutely. Yes.
That comes with having a palatial
Or
estate,
potentially, I've had a house that was added on to one point in time and literally has 2 different HVAC.
But again, those are the kinds of challenges.
And they are serviced by Love Heating and Cooling.
That's right. Love-HVAC.com. All right, my nominee for Love That Play, and it's not one that jumps out at you or necessarily makes like the SportsCenter top 10 plays.
Yeah.
Right? Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Purdue and Wisconsin have been battling the entire game. You know that when you're on the road in an environment like that Wisconsin always has a chance to sneak back in. Final minute of the game, Wisconsin's got the ball. It's a 6-point game. They can hit a 3, which they're very capable of doing, and cut the lead in half. They can hit a bucket and get it within 2 possessions. And they're moving the ball around. Errant shot. Purdue gets the rebound, and it goes into the hands of Lance Jones.
Yeah.
Lance Jones, who was not on the Purdue roster a year ago. Lance Jones, who is one player, for example, against Fairleigh Dickinson, where they could have used perhaps the athleticism of the backcourt, penetration of Lance Jones.
Right.
Lance Jones takes and streaks down the floor, and in one of those plays, Greg, where you go, no, until it goes in, and then you go, great play. But Lance Jones, instead of pulling out and setting up a set, he sees an opening and is like, you know what? Bird in the hand, 2 in the bush. I'm going for it. He goes in, he scores, lead goes up to 8, insurmountable for Wisconsin. And to me, it was symbolic of the change of Purdue from a year ago and that little added element they have, and that's why it's my nominee for Love That Play.
Well, I will concur with you, and I was thinking it's a great play. I was thinking perhaps we could have the play that Greg Doyle wrote an entire article about, that being the oop off the board that was clearly a pass from Braden Smith to Zach Edey. But I was thinking, I think there was a Lance Jones 3 that made it from a 1-possession game to a 2-possession game. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying Lance Jones is Jaden Ivey. Okay, he was a special player. 6th pick in the NBA draft. But there's a little bit of that ability to end of the shot clock. I got this. I'll make a play. That Smith has to some degree, that Lawyer has to some degree. Jones, I think, has more of that ability. Ivey is by far a better player, but it's part of the reason why I thought that the 22 team could have made a deep run. They got knocked off in the Sweet 16 by St. Peter's because Ivey just had that, and I mean this is a compliment, that blanket mode. I'll take over and go win the game.
The problem is I think at times players with Jaden Ivey, this is no fault of anybody on the floor.
They would sit there and ball watch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to get
absolutely
to this guy.
We're good. Get out of the way.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you get that sometimes, right?
I don't think they have it with this group, but I think Jones, again, in just the right moment, has that forget it. I'll go take care of this, and he did.
Speaking of forget it, and I'm not going to. I've done too much of it. I'm not going to get on a soapbox here. But Indiana fans, for this season, forget it.
Right.
It's over. 13-9, 5-6 in the conference, and Greg, quite frankly, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel.
I kind of chastised, I wouldn't say chastised, but when I was on with your former co-host, not Derek, that is in Kevin, with Kevin and Andy on the Fan a couple of weeks ago, when I was asked about Indiana, I said, why are we talking about them? In other words, here was the reason why.
Totally agree.
The Colts were still playing. I'm like, the Colts have a chance to be a playoff team when nobody thought they would be. The Pacers have been a revelation. Purdue is the number 1 team in the country. Why are we wasting time talking about the Hoosiers? I don't know whether to chastise fans for continuing to support the program or I should, admire their dedication when they're getting no results for following that team.
I will go with another word that starts with the letters D and E instead of dedication and go with delusion.
Part of it.
Listen, I grew up a huge Indiana fan, the biggest. I still have the little rug that I'd hang in the window for every game. Left side always had to be higher than the right because Indiana got better as the season went on. I had all kinds of superstitions, right? All of it. Greg, I never thought I'd say this, but, and I don't even mean this flippantly, Indiana's best ticket to future success is to finally close the chapter on the past.
Right.
You just got to move forward. And I think you got to take the Etch-a-Sketch and wipe it all the way. Nothing against Mike Woodson, nothing against Randy Whitman, nothing against Quinn Buckner. But I think that they are living in a world where they think that 1976 and 1981 and 1987 are relevant. They're not. A 16-year-old kid has no idea about that history. And right now it's about what is current and what has a future and what has upside. Indiana does not.
So here is, but here's what I'd say is the most damning criticism, is that we now live in a world where I don't want to hear about guys who want to come to Wilmington, Indiana. No. guys will follow wherever the money is.
Correct.
And quick, name me programs that have a better attendance and, frankly, have a better bankroll than Indiana University in Bloomington does. Go ahead. Name me some programs, because you're not going to be taking that long.
I mean, they're top 10 in the NIL, right?
Exactly. Have to be. Maybe even top 5. So you can't tell me and again, this is not a negative connotation. You can't tell me you can't go out and buy better players than the ones you have here.
Greg. I agree with that. Here's the problem. And I'll give credit. Khalil Ware has played hard of late.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Mbako, there's a reason Duke at the 11th hour said, I think we're good on a 5-star. I don't blame or begrudge those kids at all for going where the money is.
Right.
I understand. But when you are going out and building your roster focused on players that are there because of money, that means that they have their eyes on money, which means they're going to do what Thomas Bryant did when he was in Indiana his last year and play a style that most features what is going to future get them money, as opposed to what's going to win games for Indiana.
And it's a tremendously fair point. And the guy you could cite, because I thought Bryant had more success than others did, like Noah Vonleh.
Yeah.
You know, Noah ended up being an NBA player. Not a great one, but played in the league. That's an accomplishment. But he was at Indiana for 1 year, and they were very mediocre.
Correct.
And so all you have to do, and this will piss IU fans off, all you got to do is look up I-65. That's all you got to do.
Totally.
And go, okay, how have they built their program? Is that how we're doing it? No. So, frankly, I don't care about the kid that's playing at Montverde, and that's McNeely. It's not a direct dig at him. I don't care if they're playing at La Lumiere, Montverde, Oak Hill, Findlay Prep. I don't care. They don't have to be from this state, but get me guys that can play.
Greg.
And if that means not freshmen, but transfers that you have a track record can play at this level, you can offer them more cash.
But can play together.
Right.
They can play together, right? Here's the bottom line, and then I promise we'll move on. And I've said it before, so this is the 1,000th time I've said it, but I'm going to say it again. If you were a fan of Indiana basketball that longs for its banners, that looks up at 1987 with a twinkle in your eye, if you're an Indiana fan that sits around, and if you're like me, you can recite the entire postgame with Billy Packer, Brent Musburger, and then Knight, Alford, Daryl Thomas, I could do it, right? If you long for those days, if you're convinced that Teddy Valentine is the only reason Indiana doesn't have banner number 6, you long for those days, and you sit there and you think to yourself, I just want to see that again. I have great news for you, Indiana fans. I have wonderful news for you. Christmas has arrived. The gift is here. Go out and buy yourself a black and gold T-shirt, because the Bob Knight Indiana program you grew up in watching is playing right now in Mackey Arena, and it's called the Purdue Boilermakers. And Matt Painter has a roster of Indiana kids with Midwestern connections to accentuate that outside of Indiana, that are totally bought in, that know their role, that aren't worried about their statistics, and win basketball games by playing hard, playing together, and playing to the final horn. That's what you grew up watching. That's what you long for, and it's right there before your very eyes.
I'm not going to disagree with a single word you said. I just hope that the results are better come March. And I'll be the first to say I am absolutely
for Purdue
in the bag for Purdue.
Totally.
I want to see them play into April.
Totally agree. Yep. Totally agree. By the way, we do have beer to drink. We have a sandwich to eat. We have a Hero of the Week to give away, and a lot more when we come back here to the Query and Schultz with Greg Rakestraw edition on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz. My name is Jake Query. Greg Rakestraw is the man sitting to my left. Derek Schultz on vacation. He had jury duty last week. You know that?
Which we were sharing notes about this a couple of weeks ago. I was a foreman of a one-day trial like in September. And you're up for selection here in a couple of weeks, correct?
End of the month. So they must, I don't know this. But
they're hitting up hashtag Midtown.
They must, I was going to say several people that live near me all got the card, so they must do it by zip code or something.
Well,
right?
I know somebody that lives at 46th and the Meridian that also got a card to be in the jury pool with Derek Schultz. You may know him as the governor of the state of Indiana, Eric Holcomb. Now, he was, not surprisingly, not selected.
But he showed up.
But it's doing your civic duty. It's what you're supposed to do.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Have you been, not as an invited guest, have you been down to the new Judicial Center southeast of downtown?
I've not.
Yeah, so it's not like trying to find your parking downtown, but no, it's I don't know much experience, but as jails go, it looks really nice.
I actually have experience in the Marion County Jail. 1996, it was expunged. If anybody in the legal system can find my mugshot, I will pay top dollar.
Jake, we've all been there at some point in time.
We'll get my mugshot right here, right? That'd be awesome. And by the way, and it was expunged. It was a clerical error when I was arrested, just so you know. I'm serious. It is time, by the way, for our Hero of the Week, brought to you by Hoagies and Hops. And, Greg, you actually did the honors of going over to Hoagies and Hops. I always get it confused. 46th and Boulevard?
42nd and Boulevard.
See, I always get that confused.
Just walk 4 blocks south.
If you get to 46th and Boulevard, start sniffing for the bread. You're 4 blocks away. This looks fabulous, by the way.
All right, so this is, I'd say, I'm
taking the first bite.
I will, as you know, I'm kind of long-winded here, so you feel free to chow down on that. So my favorite sandwich at Hoagies and Hops, and we have to chastise Derek at some points in time, so I'm kind of dipping some of the toppings so they don't completely spill. So this is the pit twist, and I stumbled on this as I spilled some coleslaw on my computer. At least it's on my stuff and not like the ISC gear. So we have a great relationship with Marion University here on the ISC Sports Network. And Tony Polizzi, who still works at Marion, was in the athletic department and basically said, hey, we're going to film some stuff for like a bunch of features for Marion University. I'm going to feed you guys. There's this new place called Hoagies and Hops that, we use all the time. What do you want? So I'm kind of scanning the menu. I said, that pit twist looks interesting. I am not a huge fan of coleslaw. As you can tell from my physique, I am not as anti-mayonnaise as Jake is.
That's right.
But I rarely go, you know what sounds good today? Some coleslaw. Well, it's ham, it's turkey, it's provolone, it's the wonderful rolls they have brought in from Pennsylvania. It's Hers potato chips, and it's coleslaw. And just the mix of it is just phenomenal. And so I have mine now. Much like Meg Ryan when Harry Met Sally, Jake asked for his on the side, which means not at all. So I've got extra potato chips and coleslaw here in case anybody would want some, from the staff. I will dig in at some point in time because, Jake, you remember the movie Galaxy Quest?
Yes.
Okay. Remember Sam Rockwell's character when he was like, I'm just so geeked to be on the show? I'm just so geeked I get to eat on the show. I have to watch these two guys. I'm a fat guy, and I watch these two guys eat every month.
Derek doesn't bring you food?
No, every Tuesday morning. And I thought about it. I'm like, maybe I should bring the crew some food. And then I also remembered, because Hoagies and Hops is closed on Monday, I have to buy this on Sunday night. So perhaps dinner across the street at 11 a.m., which is kind of the tradition for us here, is kind of what we do. So sorry, fellas, I did not bring food because if you kind of want something hot and fresh. Have I killed enough time for you to eat the sandwich at this point?
No.
Okay. So now I'll talk about the beer. I am not as well versed on the beer as Derek is. Well, then you want to take over the beer so I can eat my sandwich?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to let you get through mid-chew here. I don't have the rhythm that you and Derek have as to alternate off.
This can is beautiful.
It is pretty.
And it's a perfect name, the Philiopolis.
Mm-hmm.
Philiopolis, of course, is a tribute to Philadelphia and Indianapolis. How did that combination come together, you ask? Well, and I still have a little bit of sandwich in me, but, hey. When Hoagies and Hops moved in at 42nd and Boulevard, right?
Yes, sir.
It was next to Chili Water. And they got to know the folks at Chili Water, of course, Hoagies and Hops. In 2018, this marriage took place, and they said, you know what, let's collaborate with one another. Let's go ahead, and we're going to be like the Traveling Wilburys. Let's just go ahead and put greatness.
Quality reference,
Thank
by
you.
the way. Well done.
Two areas of greatness and mesh them together. And that's what they did in 2018. And so they said, you know what, this is beautiful. We have a sandwich shop that is rooted in, and that's what I love about it, a sandwich shop that's rooted in a love for the home of Philadelphia. And then you have a brewery that is based here in Indianapolis. So let's marry the two together and let's have a beer in tribute called the Philiopolis, which is exactly what this is. And it is released each and every year in February as a tribute to the marriage of those two companies as an anniversary celebration. So cheers to it. It is actually listed as a chocolate blonde ale. Now, what that means is it's a wonderful, almost kind of like a lager, but with a subtle, obviously an ale, a blonde ale, but with a subtle chocolate flavor to it. It's wonderful.
It's really good. And literally, my in-depth research, because since I live in #Midtown, when I drove over on Sunday night, I knew I was going to get the favorite sandwich. I wasn't sure about what beer I was going to get. As I'm scanning the cooler over at Chili Water, I go, that's a pretty can. I've never seen that before. I think this is new, so this gives us something new to talk about. Now, Jake is one.
It's actually Philiopolis, but I say Philiopolis.
It's close enough. We know what you're talking about. Jake is one to make fun of his own academic skills.
Or lack thereof.
Your memorization, though, is pretty impressive. You want to know why? Because Jake pulled that all from the back of the can as I was talking, so he could read and talk about it then on the program. Well played by you. See,
thank you.
As always, you're smarter than you let on.
Well,
under promise and
although
over
I
deliver.
did screw up the pronunciation.
A summary of the Jake Query life story in 30 seconds on Query Without Schultz.
It's Philiopolis, not Philiopolis, but I still
close
say
enough.
Philiopolis. Listen, here is my nominee for our hero of the week. Typically, we do this as a hero in the world of sports. Not often that I would, of course, I deviate from the world of sports often, but not when it comes to a sponsored event like this, but I'm going to. I don't watch the Grammys, Greg.
Chap.
I have nothing against the Grammys. Mm-hmm. But I typically don't watch the Grammys because they do nothing more than make me feel really old.
Right.
I watch the Grammys and I'm like, when does Cyndi Lauper come out? You know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And if you haven't seen the We Are the World Netflix documentary, you should watch it. It's very well done.
Yep.
But during the Grammys, you know, I think we know that Luke Combs has a cover, a huge smash hit cover of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car. Tracy Chapman, to me, is a fascinating performer and entertainer because so. I think everyone knows of Fast Car, and she is seen from an artistic standpoint is in this upper stratosphere, and I think everyone respects her. You don't meet anybody that dislikes her, but very few people you would ever meet that are like, that's my favorite artist.
Right.
Or I can't wait to go see her in concert. She hasn't toured in, I think, 15 years and is basically like the J.D. Salinger of musicians. So completely reclusive for the most part. But because Luke Combs grew up admiring the song Fast Car by Tracy Chapman, he did a cover of it, which is wonderful. So for the Grammys, they brought the two of them out on stage, and I don't think that people realized that was what was going to happen. And Tracy Chapman, and this was what was wonderful about it and why the moment is my hero, okay? Right. The lights are a little bit dim. Tracy Chapman comes out. I don't know if Tracy Chapman has stage fright. I don't know, like Van Morrison supposedly has stage fright. I don't know what reason Tracy Chapman has been reclusive for a decade and a half and not performed in concert forever. But she comes out on stage with the biggest performers in music of 2024, and the lights come up and everyone realizes that she's there. And there was this pause of incredulous nature amongst the crowd before then even the biggest performers of the era are standing up in recognition and in celebration of it. And this glow went over Tracy Chapman's face.
Yep.
And in a song that is about overcoming your background and trying to break cycles to be able to carry through with a perseverance, Tracy Chapman in that moment, I think, overcame something. You could just see that she overcame something in justifying in herself her decision to go ahead and perform live again. And I thought it was one of those moments that you say, you don't see this very often, but that is super cool.
I just thought it was super cool because you could not have two people that are from more different backgrounds.
Totally.
That sing the same song and that come together on stage, and it is such a beautiful medley. And,
totally.
And again, do I watch the Grammys? No. Do I watch award shows? No. Heck, I don't watch the ESPYs. The only award shows I watch are ones that I'm probably involved in, and I'm not sure how much I'm really watching them, to be blunt about it. But to see some different generations, different backgrounds. And again, you and I are about 3 or 4 years apart in age. You and I are closer in age than Derek and I are. But you would have been probably a freshman at North Central when that song came out.
That's about right, yep.
I was in the 6th or 7th grade when that song came out. And, I remember listening to it growing up in Southern Indiana, but not appreciating it. The older they get.
Yeah, you understand it now, right?
I understand that. Like, for example, like back in the day when Bruce Hornsby and the Range would come on, I'm going to turn the channel immediately. Now I stop and I listen because I have much more of an appreciation for it now in my late 40s than when I was a 12, 13-year-old about to be a teenager.
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment. And if you have not taken a deep dive on Tracy Chapman's other music, certainly do so because it's good stuff.
I'm going to give a couple of different heroes of the week, not to disagree with anything you said there. But I'm actually going to give it to a couple
I'm going to eat the sandwich.
Exactly. I'm going to give it to a couple of different fan bases here. One we've already talked about on the show, and that is the folks at Indiana State University. And again, I'm not like our buddy JMV that is in love with all things Terre Haute. I am too. I didn't live there for as long as he did. But being from small town Southern Indiana, which I'll get to in a matter of moments, I have an appreciation for things that are a little bit smaller. I love Indianapolis. Indianapolis is the perfect place for me. I've been there now almost 30 years, but I have an affinity for Terre Haute as well. And so I'm so happy for Josh Schultz, and I'm friends with Matthew Graves on his staff. Don't know the players as well, but I'm friends with a lot of the people behind the scenes at Indiana State University. And, the baseball success they've had in the spring, the basketball success they're having now, there are some things on that campus that, frankly, aren't going that great these days. So I'm thrilled that the sports teams are having the run that they are. But again, to me, it's the fact that the people of the Wabash Valley have bought in. A good football crowd is 3,000 or 4,000. But in the last 9 or 10 months, you've seen they had to add bleachers for the baseball regional at Indiana State. That's cool. A building that was last full seemingly when Larry Bird played there 45 years ago is packed. And so it gives the people of that part of the state something to celebrate. And I think that's awesome. You know what it reminds me of? Reminds me of my hometown of Lanesville because my high school girls basketball team, number 1 in the state in Class 1A, just won a 6th consecutive sectional championship, which brings our total in school history of girls basketball sectional championships to 6. Those are the only 6 that we have won. Had not won one in that sport since the inception of the tournament back in '76. The defending 1A state champs, but played our big rivals in Borden, played them to a 2-point game in the regular season. I think we were down 11-10 after the end of the first quarter. Borden scored 1 field goal the rest of the
Isn't
game.
Borden a milk company?
It is. And Borden actually, like Logansport, used to be named the Berries before they changed it to the Braves 50,
They should be the
60 years ago.
Elsies, right?
You would think so, but no. They've gone with the Braves.
What's Lanesville's mascot?
The Eagles.
Okay.
Because
always been the Eagles?
It was the Aces for a long time. But it was been the Eagles for the last 60, 70 years.
What happened to Aces?
I don't know. People started calling them the Asses or something. I have no idea. At least it's not as first face palm of the show. 35 minutes in. Lisa didn't talk about how good the effing sandwich was. Okay,
That's right.
so anyway, so Lanesville wins, and we're playing out West Washington, which seats about 2,500 people, and I think the Lanesville turnout was about 1,600 or 1,700 people. My hometown is about 600 or 700 people. And literally the population doubles to go watch the girls' basketball team. So my heroes of the week, the hometowns of Indiana State and Lanesville for the wonderful crowd support. And I use this phrase in terms of Purdue basketball, but the buy-in you have in supporting your teams, that was glorious to see, if even from afar.
I'm drawing a map of Indiana.
Yep.
And I'm going to see how closely I can point to where Lanesville is.
Yep.
Okay.
I was once given directions: south do you smell it, and west do you step in it. That's how you get to
Hang on
Lanesville.
just a second. I'm going to guess. Now let me divulge to the audience.
Yep.
You probably can't see it. Darn it, you can't see it.
That's good. That's
Okay.
good. You're need to be a little further south.
So the dot is what I'm predicting for Lanesville's location.
That would be Salem. So if you go about
Okay, hold
20 minutes to the southeast, you got it.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Between Corydon and New Albany. We were a stop on the Plank Road from the original state capitol to the Port
by the
Ohio
way,
River.
Your core gets really sore if you stop on that for too long.
It does.
Okay, how about this? Here's my read.
Not bad. You're probably more like Western Harrison County, but you're in the right county.
Okay.
Close enough.
All right, that's
well done.
Lanesville.
Your Indiana geography skills are
real
top
quick,
notch.
Greg. Pacers trade deadline upcoming.
Yep.
They've already made the big deal with Pascal Siakam. I think they're getting really good play out of Aaron Nesmith.
Yep.
Andrew Nembhard has played well with Tyrese Halliburton's minutes starting to come back. I don't think they're going to go full bore with him before the All-Star break. But does Indiana make a move?
I don't think so. You and I both have our connections in the organization. I know that the last time I talked to one of the most higher up ones that I have, kind of in mid-January, he kind of hinted that there might be another move in the offing. I kind of want to see what this group has. And again, the trade for Siakam was a no-brainer. Even if he does not re-sign, which I'm thinking leaning towards he is going to, you could have let Bruce Brown go after the end of the year. Jordan Ward didn't have a place. You're going to do anything with those 3 draft picks. And so I thought that was a brilliant move.
Well, the thing that trade did for them was it freed them from some draft picks. And you say,
Right.
well, Jake, what are you talking about? Those draft picks are essentially the re-sign potentially of Andrew Nembhard.
Correct.
Nesmith you've already locked in on a really good deal. But, Isaiah Jackson, good pieces that you have that are young. You have your core.
Correct.
And so you don't those draft picks that they sent out for Pascal Siakam are going to be low 20 picks and a second round pick. Those aren't going to be contributing players. And so now you have freed up some salary obligation away.
Is there playing time for Jarris Walker right now? Then why are you drafting guys after him? You have, again, you've got 4 of the top 14 picks from 2020. Those guys are in their mid-20s. You've got your young base. You don't need anything else. So if they make a move, great. But honestly, I kind of think they're going to stand pat. And I'm okay with that because I like this group, how it's currently constructed.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a fun group. All right, we still have stuff to get to when we come back. For example, we've got to get to our Chateau Kitchens buy it or bowl bleep.
Yes, sir. We can call it Bull Schultz.
We can call it Bull Schultz because he's not here, right?
Right. Bull Straw is fine.
IUPUI Jag Report. Still a lot to get to. You are watching Corey and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Welcome back. Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Derek Schultz back with us. Is it next week?
Next week,
Do we
correct.
know for a fact? Chateau Kitchens, and this is the wonderful thing about Chateau Kitchens. Not only does Chateau Kitchens have on their website, their Facebook page, where you can see before and after of their fantastic work. Chateau Kitchens, whether it be your basement, whether it be obviously your kitchen, or any number of different areas of your house that you would like to have remodeled. And Derek Schultz has had each of them 6 times at this point. Good news is we do not have to see the picture of Derek's redo of his bathroom and shower. Even though it's beautiful, the work they did, he getting out of the shower is not. Chateau Kitchens brings us each and every week our Buy It or Bull Schultz.
I will take responsibility for this. I am often the person that is calling for the Derek Schultz picture. So in addition to the graphics, I'm kind of the person that handles the pictures. Don't look, Jake. It's up there. So this is not my fault today. This is on J.D. Arlen, Vince Morales, and I'm sure Jordan Shue is back there chirping about, show the picture, show the picture. So it's not on me today. Now,
Why not just get a day off?
you are. Not from this, though. And I will say this. I, too, have a mane of chest hair. Nobody wants to see it. So you're clear now. You're good.
Okay,
You're
now,
safe. Yeah.
would you like to know a little fun fact about me?
Please.
I actually have a manscaper, and I shave my chest hair
Good for you.
because I'm not foul and disgusting.
I would, too. Mrs. Rakestraw
See how clean that
doesn't
is?
want me to, so hence I don't. Oh, that looks very nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Buy It or Bull Schultz. Here's what we do. One of us gives a statement. The other says whether we buy it or we think it's bullshit.
Sounds good.
Would you like to go first or would you like me to?
I will ask you a question first, and I will go to a topic that we have discussed already on the program today. Mike Woodson is the head coach of the Indiana men's basketball team next year. Buy it or bullshit?
I buy it. I think Mike Woodson's relationship with Quinn Buckner, who, don't kid yourself, I think is the one that got Mike Woodson hired as the head of the Board of Trustees in Indiana. I think that now next year, if they're in this situation, we're probably having long discussions. But I do believe that so long as Mike Woodson chooses to do so, and my understanding is Mike Woodson privately has said to people like, why would I leave? Look what they're paying me. I'm paraphrasing. Yeah, I think he's there.
The buyout changes as of next April, as of 2025. So maybe we're having a different conversation a year from now, not just from an X's and O's standpoint, from a wins and losses standpoint, from a dollars and cents standpoint. And you got to remember, you're still buying out Tom Allen. You just signed Kurt Cignetti. Again, we haven't played a single game yet, but everybody seemingly has given a big thumbs up on the Cignetti hire so far. Where maybe we're having a different, conversation about this come September or October. But even in the unabashed capitalism era of college sports, there is a bottom line from a dollars and cents standpoint, and that may play a factor here too.
You want to know who I think should be Indiana's next coach?
Please enlighten me.
You're going to laugh.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to elaborate. I'm just going to say this name out there. And I actually talked to somebody from IU yesterday and said, here's who I think Indiana should get next, whenever that might be. And before I could say anything, this person said, well, I think it's so-and-so. And I said, oh, my God, are you serious?
And that person is?
Chris Collins.
From Northwestern?
Yep.
Wouldn't be a bad hire. My guess would be a lot of people would say Dusty May because of his background from the
Dusty May, clearly Dusty May, and I hate bringing this back up for people. There are others that would be your phone call before Chris Collins for sure.
Right.
And Dusty May would be one of them and would
I would have zero problem with a phone call to Chris Collins. Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, mine for you. You ready?
Yes.
Every year on St. Patrick's Day, which is some 6 weeks away, Shannon and I have a tradition of going to one of our favorite places that we go literally one time per year on St. Patrick's Day to have a beer. When we do that, on that day, when we're sipping our beer on St. Patrick's Day, Buddy Hield is an Indiana Pacer.
I buy that. By the way, St. Patrick's Day is also Selection Sunday.
Is it really?
This year. Absolutely. March 17th is a Sunday. St. Patrick's Day.
So now, does that mean we do St. Patrick's Day on Sunday, or will people do it on Friday?
I would assume people will drink because it's the day that ends in Y. It's not like you get like an actual day off. I used to actually be on the committee, kind of the Columbia Club, Indianapolis Athletic Club, that actually does like the St. Patrick's Day parade in downtown. So my guess would be the parade will be on Monday, but celebrations will be an all-weekend thing long. But to answer your question, yes, I think Buddy Hield will be a Pacer because, again, as I said earlier, I think the team is going to stand pat at this point.
Okay.
Stand pat for St. Patrick's Day.
Greg, your turn.
And this is something we have not discussed on the show today at all, but is always near and dear to your heart, and that is all things Indianapolis 500, all things IndyCar. St. Petersburg is how long away for you?
That is the first weekend in March.
So 4 weeks at this point. There has been talk about going back to 1996 and guaranteed starting spots in the Indianapolis 500. Buy it or bull, Schultz, that's going to happen.
I don't know if it's this year, obviously, but I would say buy it. And I have no inside information on that other than to say this, and that is that it is an idea that was originally essentially proposed by Roger Penske, and guess what? He's the guy that owns the series.
Yeah.
So I would say buy it.
And again, but he was the guy that was against it 30 years ago.
It would disappoint me.
Yeah.
But I would say buy it.
Okay. I hope that's not the case. I don't know if Graham Rahal is a big enough star, and he ended up not missing the field anyway. He ended up getting Steph Wilson's ride, obviously, a year ago, and what was but without that drama,
that's it.
Qualifying weekend means nothing.
Correct.
And you can argue for a lot of people it doesn't mean that much at this point. But when somebody doesn't make it of note, it gives IndyCar a rare opportunity.
I mean, it was a huge storyline, right?
Exactly. You're not exactly controlling the national narrative, but you're being talked about because so-and-so, just like his dad, missed the Indianapolis 500 one time. Now, again, he ended up not missing the race, but I think that is penny wise and pound foolish if you're an IndyCar racer.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
All right, my last one for you, Greg.
Yes.
Buy it or bull, Schultz. There will be more than 2 teams from the state of Indiana that will hear their name called on St. Patrick's Day, also known as Selection Sunday.
Buy it. We've referenced Purdue.
Yep.
We've referenced Indiana State. The other team we got to reference is Butler.
Yes, sir.
They had a massive win on Friday night at Creighton. And because it was a late game, obviously I had high school basketball on Friday night. Actually, I didn't have high school basketball on Friday night. We did on ISC. Actually, had a lovely New the Misses, had the night off. But they had a late game, and Butler won, 99-98, something along those lines. It was an insane
That guy
game
right
at
there is
Omaha.
getting it done, though, isn't he?
And again, Indiana fans, this is actually what gives you hope. Butler completely flipped their roster.
Correct.
From last year to this year. It can be done if you do it properly. And again, Butler
The last part there is the key, right?
Right, and as always in life. Butler by no guarantee is a tournament team yet. I think they were in the last 4 out before the Creighton game. So it is officially the time of year we start paying attention to what Joe Lenardi has to say, and that win was huge for Butler's chances of getting back to the NCAA tournament.
Okay, I got one more for you. You ready?
Bonus.
Buy it or bull, Schultz. The 2024, which means 2023 season, Super Bowl champion, when they hand the Lombardi Trophy to the starting quarterback,
Yes.
it will be somebody who has never hoisted that trophy before.
Bull Schultz, the Chiefs are going to win.
I would agree.
I would love to see the 49ers win.
I would agree with you. You got to go with the law of averages here,
I think
right?
America is starting to get Chiefs fatigue, and for some that has something to do with Taylor Swift. For me, that has nothing to do
I would agree with that as
Taylor
well.
Swift. I don't care. But after seeing somebody there over and over again, we get tired of them. I like to see something different. So if I care at all, I'm probably leaning towards the 49ers. My head tells me it's the Chiefs. They figured some things out.
The Chiefs are the Golden State Warriors. And by that, I
True.
mean they're going to win. People are going to get fatigued by it. Then all of a sudden, Travis Kelce and other players are going to retire or move on. Patrick Mahomes is going to go through a few seasons where he's kind of the lone guy on the island. He's going to have a resurgence and come back with a new young core, and everybody's going to love him all over again.
Yep, that's the way it works.
That's exactly how it's
And
going to
you
work.
were ahead of the curve on hating the Warriors. I will acknowledge that now. You're welcome.
When we come back, a little bit more about the Horizon League because we're going to talk about IUPUI, the Jags. The Jag Report is next. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Okay, let's do this thing.
Can you tell my partner is involved in the racing business? No problem putting every logo we've
Love
got on him
Hey, man.
in some way,
I'm
shape, or
proud of
fashion.
these logos.
And we've earned them on the ISC Sports Network. On top, it is the IUPUI Jaguar logo. We'll get to the Jags report in a matter of moments, but the thing on the back behind me tells me we're talking about the Horizon League first. The Horizon League will be on board with us for the next 6 weeks here on Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network. I put that on the wrong side when I set this set. I'm sorry today. But the Horizon League, of course, their 5th year of the Barbasol men's and women's basketball championships at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. I have been lucky. I have been there in a working capacity over the course of the last 4 years. I will be again, but want you to be there in terms of a fan capacity. So much so that Jake and Derek will be doing a live edition of Query and Schultz Monday, March 11th.
Love it.
Exact time and exact location yet to be determined. It could be at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum.
We'll be kicking off St. Patrick's Day week, right?
It could be, and I know you celebrate all week long. It could be at the Vallejo Fan Zone there on the facilities. Maybe I'll show the boys the new beautiful indoor track that we'll showcase twice on the ISC Sports Network at what's better known as the Swine Barn at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. We could be at a bar or restaurant close to the Indiana State Fairgrounds, but your chance to interact with Jake and Derek live Monday, March 11th. Details to come. Now, most importantly, and you're going to see my bald head as I read this for a little bit, March starts here in Midtown, the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th, with NCAA tournament bids on the line. Visit horizonleague.com/Indy to learn how you get involved and can attend. And as it says, hashtag March starts here.
Love it.
There you go.
Absolutely love it.
You can toss that to the side if you want to at this point. You can sit it back on the table, or you can just chuck it like a cue card, like David Letterman style.
I don't want to do that. It'll break something.
Yeah, don't hit a light, please. Right. We got to pay your salary.
Okay. We have the Jags report.
We do have the Jags report. And, of course, I do the IUPUI coaches show here on the ISC Sports Network and have broadcast IUPUI games for pretty much as long as I have known Jake at this point. Let's start with women's basketball. They had a great win last Wednesday. Now, I also know, look at the monitor, so what I talk about matches what people are seeing on the screen.
That's right.
We haven't gotten that into Schultz's brain just yet. We're working that for next week. Katie Davidson has been the star for IUPUI this year from Lawrence North, transfer from Miami of Ohio. She had 20 points. Jasmine Turner had 15. This game was played at 11 a.m. last Wednesday. It was Education Day inside the jungle on the IUPUI campus. 69-63 Jaguars win. Then they go, and this should resonate with you as well. This is perhaps the most prominent building named after a sportscaster in this country. From the Hilliard Gates Sports Center on the campus of Purdue Fort Wayne. And I love the Purdue-infused color scheme now that the Dons roll with as well. Unfortunately, a loss 68-65 to an improved Purdue Fort Wayne. This is the Rest Center. This was also an early game, a noon game. And Jake, I'm going to tell you right now, we're probably going to line you up with Sundance Wicks at some point in time. He is the new head coach at Green Bay. They had 3 wins last year. They're atop the league this year. They beat IUPUI in this game by a score of 79-56. The Jaguars would eventually, by the way, John Egbuda had a new career high. You see him on the flush there for IUPUI. The next game it was. The next game for IUPUI was at Milwaukee. And even though that game was close at halftime, Jaguars fell in that one by a score of 87-67. The Jaguars get, at least on the men's side, get some needed time off. They only play 1 game this weekend, and it is at home. There's just 2 home games left for IUPUI. Purdue Fort Wayne on Saturday at noon. These Milwaukee Panthers will come to the Coliseum on February the 28th. And if they're playing at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum again this year, that's a very good thing. It means they have won 2 rounds on the road and have gotten to the aforementioned Barbasol men's and women's basketball championships at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. By the way, softball has started. They're in Stark Vegas and taking place UAB and Mississippi State coming up this weekend. And men's tennis got a big win, beating Marquette 5-2 on Saturday at the club that I get to call home, the West Indy Racket Club, where I'm literally playing coming up at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
I've never played tennis in my life.
Yeah.
Actually, I take that back. One time I touched the tennis.
Not even the Love brothers have not suckered you into this yet?
So the Love brothers played tennis at North Central, right?
Correct.
One of their best friends, Eric Barrett, who I grew up with.
Okay.
Eric's a great dude. Won a Big Ten title at Indiana.
Okay.
Eric, when we were in high school, Eric had a tennis court in his backyard with a basketball goal.
Yeah.
I said, Eric, just hit me 1 serve. I managed to return it. It went over his head. It hung the net in the basketball goal, and I dropped the racket. So that's it.
Walk off.
But I have tennis elbow. How's this possible?
It's all that weightlifting you do, Jay.
Honestly,
or patting yourself on the back. Maybe carrying Boo around the house. Maybe that's what it's from.
A lot of this. Right?
I told you. By the way, IUPUIJags.com/tickets to get yours. We would love to see you. Bob Lovell and I will be there for the ESPN Plus broadcast. Jake, Derek, and James had a wonderful time there a few weeks ago. Jake is wonderful about touting the virtues of the Indiana Farmers Coliseum.
Right.
Whether it's the jungle, whether it's the Coliseum, support IUPUI Athletics as they become IU Indianapolis effective July 1st.
Super Bowl, excuse me.
I've been
Greg?
called worse. It's
I
fine.
know. Your prediction. You said Kansas City.
We have 30 seconds left to go. I say Kansas City in a close one. I think much like when these two teams played 4 years ago, it'll be a really good game. KC in a close one.
Okay. Higher number.
Yeah.
Total number of points scored by the winner.
Yep.
Or Taylor Swift cutaways.
Taylor Swift cutaways in a landslide.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We got to go. My substitute teacher contract
27-24
is
Kansas
ending.
City.
It's your show, brother. You ended. Thanks for putting up with me today.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for the Bailey and Wood, all of our great sponsors. Love Heating and Air, Chateau Kitchens, IUPUI, Horizon League. March starts here. Don't forget Hoagie and Hops, Chili Water as well. We will be back next week. Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.